This is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather and Connie Chung.
And good evening. Dan and Connie are off tonight. I'm Deborah Norville. The death toll from hunger and disease is spiraling out of control tonight as millions of refugees from Rwanda wait for a rescue that may or may not reach them in time. President Clinton said today the United States will try to lead the response, but an American airlift of food has yet to get off the ground. The pictures reflect a horrifying reality and may be too graphic for some viewers. So with that warning, CBS News correspondent Bob Arnott has tonight's report from Goma, Zaire.
The latest delivery of bodies. They are dying here at the rate of one every minute. Ceremonial burials are over. Machines now dig the trenches that hold mass graves. The dead are thrown in by hand and by dump truck. The cargo of death seems endless. This is where they're dying.
Really, you can say it's like hell without fire. But
health officials now estimate that as many as 50,000 of these refugees will be stricken with cholera. Half of them will die. The first cases were identified here at the Muniki refugee camp outside Goma. 300 more died today. The cholera epidemic has exploded. Amid the crying, this young girl sat quietly with her father. Sarah Rusha needed treatment but received none because her father thought he would have to pay and had no money. Another young girl helped her father deliver IV solutions and comfort to her dying mother and 3 brothers. In Muniki camp, there is no longer any hope of containing or even treating this epidemic. Unless millions of refugees are quickly moved back across the border to clean water, epidemic death on an unprecedented scale will quickly follow. Along the road to the border, the dead were everywhere. One relief worker counted 800 bodies in a 3-mile stretch. The living simply stepped around them. From the air, one could sense the massive scale of this tragedy. A sea of refugees as far as the eye could see. At the border between Zaire and Rwanda, we found deadly reminders of the violence refugees left behind. This sign reads, "Welcome to Rwanda." A member of the Rwanda Patriotic Front guarding the border told us the Hutu refugees are indeed welcome to return.
if they wish to come back to their country, they are welcome.
But just moments later, a group of refugees were chased away by members of the Zaire border guards. They said they just wanted to go home.
But now, are you Hutu?
Yes.
And you're not afraid of the RPF?
I am not afraid. We didn't kill anybody.
The feeling among many aid workers here is that the United States is the only country equipped to provide the massive amounts of relief that are so desperately needed. And they question why it is taking the U.S. so long to respond. Whatever relief that does come will be too late for the hundreds of small children dying one lonely death at a time. Dr. Bob Arnott, CBS News, Goma, Zaire.
President Clinton authorized more money today and said the United States will play an expanded role in the relief effort. But Pentagon officials say the response is being held up by logistical problems on the ground. National security correspondent David Martin has the latest on that part of the story.
3 C-5s went in today.
The Pentagon arranged a rare photo op of the Joint Chiefs of Staff meeting on the Rwandan refugee crisis late this afternoon as the Clinton administration struggled to deal with both the human catastrophe and the criticism that the U.S. is not moving fast enough.
We're moving aggressively and immediately. The international community has never seen anything quite like this.
Atwood detailed a long list of supplies being rushed to the refugee camps in Zaire. Water and emergency medical kits to deal with the outbreak of cholera, grain and high-protein biscuits, blankets and tents. But it will take the U.S. military to open up the airfields and establish order before the supplies can be delivered in the quantities needed by some 2 million refugees. And aid workers say it's taking too long.
We've lost some valuable days. I think what we need to do to catch up is to quickly drive this from the White House as an all-out Berlin airlift kind of rescue effort.
Even as the U.S. is gearing up to move into Zaire, it is getting ready to pull the plug on the last attempt to save Africa from itself, Somalia. CBS News has learned that after receiving intelligence reports warlord Mohammed Aidid intends to attack U.S. personnel, Defense Secretary Perry wrote National Security Advisor Lake urging him to consider a final pullout of the remaining Americans. And a cable sent by the U.S. ambassador in Somalia concluded nothing of what remains of our interests in Somalia is worth another American life. Somalia began as a noble cause, and now Rwanda is beginning as an equally noble attempt to save innocent lives. But once again, the Clinton administration will have to guard against being sucked into a vicious civil war in which Americans have no stake. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
President Clinton also moved today to lay the groundwork for possible military intervention in Haiti. He's asking the United Nations to authorize a U.S.-led force to restore democracy in Haiti using all necessary means. U.S. officials say that does not mean a decision has been made to invade. As of now, U.S. policy is still to squeeze the Haitian military with economic sanctions. But as correspondent Bob Simon reports, the sanctions may have reached a point of no return.
You've seen these children's faces before in Somalia, the Sudan, in Rwanda. Now you're seeing them 500 miles from Miami. All the telltale signs are there: the distended bellies, the reddish hair, the look of betrayal, the eyes that ask, "How could you do this to me?" It's a result of the sanctions, relief workers say, the unfortunate byproduct of a policy designed to unseat an illegal government. Haiti has never been short of hungry children, but a UNICEF report out today says that the problem has reached staggering and unprecedented proportions, that more than one-half of Haiti's children are now not only hungry, but seriously malnourished. It's not just a shortage of food. Much of the hunger is caused by social dislocation. Mothers are forced to go far from home to scrounge for a daily existence, leaving their toddlers to fend for themselves. 8-year-olds have become surrogate mothers, taking their younger brothers and sisters to feeding centers. 4-year-old Sonia Jean-Pierre makes it on her own to the Morn Health Center every day. She weighs 23 pounds. That's 16 pounds less than she should weigh. Nurses are afraid she has tuberculosis, which kills many malnourished children. The morgues here are full of them. But even if she survives, Sonia, like millions of other kids, will suffer permanent damage from what she's going through. Aid workers say Haiti's short-term crisis is destroying a generation.
So we hope very much that this situation, this political situation, this can be resolved, because for the future of Haiti's children, it's absolutely essential.
The only thriving industry in Haiti today is the orphanage. Missionaries here speak of a sharp rise in the number of children abandoned by parents who simply can't provide for them. And it's not poverty, it's politics. Much of this is happening in neighborhoods which were relatively prosperous a few short years ago. That was before the world decided to oust an illegal government, but couldn't quite decide how to do it. Bob Simon, CBS News, Port-au-Prince.
Still ahead on the CBS Evening News, in the O.J. Simpson case, questions about how the coroner's office handled the evidence. And in Eye on America, how the other half is prosecuted. Name brand justice versus no frills.
That entry by the Department of Probation.
In Washington, a political watchdog group says the health care reform debate is producing the biggest lobbying blitz ever. Over the last 2 years, health care special interests have doled out nearly 200 trips to at least 85 members of Congress. And on top of that, the lobbyists pumped $25 million into congressional campaigns. O.J. Simpson is scheduled to be arraigned in Los Angeles tomorrow on charges he murdered his former wife Nicole and Ronald Goldman. Simpson insists he didn't do it, but prosecutors say they have the evidence to prove he did. Tonight, it appears the defense may have new grounds for attacking at least some of that evidence. Correspondent Sandra Hughes has the story.
Mistakes by the L.A. County Coroner's Office cast a shadow of doubt over evidence in the Simpson murder case. An inter-office memo outlined 16 foul-ups, from mislabeled specimens to the improper storage of Nicole Simpson's blood-soaked dress. These errors, warns a nationally known forensic expert, hurt the prosecution.
That this kind of evidence, cumulatively attacking the credibility and hence the validity of evidence from key witnesses, could be sufficient in a tight case to make the difference between acquittal and guilt.
But a source in the DA's office told CBS News while this will give the system a black eye, these errors don't hurt our case. A coroner spokesman calls the mistakes trivial and said, "We have no need to defend ourselves. No evidence was compromised. No mistakes were made." Weaknesses in the coroner's probe first surfaced in the preliminary hearing when Simpson's attorney cross-examined Dr. Irwin Golden about knife wounds on the victims' bodies. Golden admitted he hadn't thoroughly compared the wounds with a knife such as the one prosecutors allege O.J. Simpson purchased.
When would you suggest doing these tests?
Now? Legal experts expect the defense to pounce on the coroner's blunders, in addition using the $500,000 reward and the tip line to sway public opinion.
It looks like the defense is trying to swamp the prosecution with investigative leads and distract the prosecution from getting ready for trial.
But LAPD officials have already tried to shoot down one defense theory floated this week. That Detective Mark Furman found 2 bloody gloves at the crime scene and then planted one of them at the Simpson house. Police say Furman was the 15th officer on the scene, and a source close to the investigation says it would take a conspiracy of monumental proportions to have carried out what they say happened. Sandra Hughes, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Boxing promoter Don King pleaded not guilty today to fraud charges. This is King leaving the federal courthouse in New York after he was released on a $250,000 bail. King's accused of bilking Lloyd's of London out of $350,000 by filing a false insurance claim for a canceled boxing match. Still ahead on the CBS Evening News, a new air safety system goes online to help make sure those skies stay friendly.
Here's something we bet you never thought you'd hear. Lower sticker prices for certain Japanese cars. That should mean better deals for you. But does it? Well, yes and no. That story, plus the latest chapter in the Simpson case, the arraignment, and with it the plea, the judge will try the case and all the details tomorrow on the CBS Evening News.
A new type of weather warning system is up and running today at Houston Airport, the first of nearly 50 being installed at airports nationwide. The system is designed to detect wind shear, air turbulence that can grab an airliner out of the sky and slam it to the ground. Correspondent Bob Orr has the story.
Wind 200 at 5, eastbound your wind 190 at 4. Air traffic controllers in Houston have new high-tech help in guiding planes and passengers around dangerous wind shear. The FAA today turned on its first terminal Doppler weather radar system at Houston's Intercontinental Airport.
It'll provide the capability of telling pilots exactly what type of wind shear they could encounter, where it'll be located, and the strength of it.
Conventional radar provides a much less precise view of wind shear, often dangerous and invisible downdrafts, blamed for more than 500 aviation deaths. Investigators say wind shear caused this 1985 Delta crash in Dallas and may have contributed to this month's U.S. air accident in Charlotte. A former NTSB investigator says a detection system is overdue.
The FAA moves at glacial speed, and maybe they're being overcautious. But I don't like the idea of being too overcautious when we are killing people.
The new radar will help planes when they're most vulnerable on takeoffs and landings, but it's only one half of a two-pronged defense against wind shear.
Wind shear ahead.
Allied Signal is one of 3 companies in the final stages of testing cockpit wind shear detectors that will sound earlier warnings.
We've exited the back of the storm.
The system alerts pilots to wind shear before they fly into it.
Basically, they try to avoid versus being in them and having to react to them.
The first onboard system should be in airplanes later this year. Installing the new ground radar will take longer. The FAA hopes to have it operating in 47 airports by the end of 1996. Bob Orr, CBS News, Washington.
The UN airlift to Sarajevo was suspended today after 3 planes, including a U.S. Air Force jet, were hit by ground fire. 1 American was wounded. UN troops also came under fire as they worked to repair public transportation lines in the Bosnian capital. The renewed sniping was seen as reaction to an international peace plan that's now been rejected by both Serbs and Muslims. Despite recent clashes in Gaza, Secretary of State Warren Christopher went there today to see PLO chief Yasser Arafat. Christopher is the highest-ranking visitor since the start of Palestinian self-rule. He said the world has a huge stake in its success. Still ahead on the CBS Evening News, forget Jupiter. Check out the asteroid that nearly sparked 4th of July fireworks right here on Earth.
Stop holding, Fixident holds stronger and longer. That's why I Fixident and forget it. Why Centrum Silver? Because you're over 50 and you're just hitting your stride. Centrum Silver Vitamins. Because the latest scientific research about changing nutritional needs after 50 is built in. Centrum Silver. It's a great time to be silver.
My basic love of dogs and my experience breeding dogs makes me enjoy my career as a veterinarian even more.
David Qualls, top breeder of champion Siberian Huskies and doctor of veterinary medicine.
We give our dogs pedigree as a source of meat in their diet. When you open a can of choice cuts, there's
Glitches in one of Space Shuttle Columbia's navigation units could affect tomorrow morning's scheduled landing at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. NASA's prepared to switch the landing to California if necessary, where the runways are longer and wider. Meantime, the astronauts have been keeping an eye on Hurricane Amelia, the most powerful hurricane ever recorded in the Central Pacific. It's expected to pass within 300 miles of Hawaii. The week-long comet collision with planet Jupiter is ending with a bang, and it's already made a lot of people ask, what are the odds of a near miss with a comet or asteroid here? Well, the answer is a lot more likely than you think. Correspondent Scott Pelley has more about close encounters of the worst kind.
The celestial fireworks only got brighter today as 4 chunks of comet exploded into Jupiter's atmosphere.
It's been an absolutely fabulous week.
But while astronomers marvel, other scientists are warning that cosmic collisions can and do happen here on Earth.
Jupiter is really an excellent demonstration of what could be happening or could happen on Earth with very little warning.
Eleanor Helene has searched for near-Earth comets and asteroids for 21 years. On July the 4th, she discovered this one streaking past the Earth. One astronomer called it a close shave, and the more they look, the more they find.
We're finding 3 or 4 a month worldwide.
Astronomers estimate there are 2,000 objects near Earth's orbit, many the size of mountains.
It would be a globally catastrophic collision. It would probably wipe out 1/4 of the Earth's population and cause a lot of difficulty for the people who survived.
Scientists now believe a comet wiped out the dinosaurs, and as recently as 1908, 800 miles of Siberia were flattened. At least one meteor with the power of an atom bomb explodes in Earth's atmosphere every year. Recent studies show it might be possible to deflect an oncoming asteroid with a nuclear missile. Astronomers do not know of any large asteroids now on a collision course with the Earth, but they say that's just the problem. They don't know. It's estimated that 90% of all near-Earth asteroids haven't been located yet. The hunt is gathering speed. The Air Force will soon add its surveillance equipment to the search, and a bill now in Congress gives NASA 6 months to come up with a plan to map every menacing mountain of space debris. Scott Pelley, CBS News, Dallas.
We hadn't planned it this way, but America is spending the summer in law school, learning how the criminal justice system works. how it works, at least in the O.J. Simpson case. And that may be giving some Americans a very distorted picture, because as Richard Threlkeld reports in tonight's Eye on America, justice comes in different styles and different prices.
Number 13 on the Supreme Court calendar.
Louise Hochberg's a public defender in New York City's criminal courts, and she is overworked.
My client states that there must have been some miscommunication.
She's handling the cases of 8 defendants today alone, and she has less than an hour to prepare for a preliminary hearing on the robbery charge against one George Gonzalez.
2:15. Thank you very much.
We don't really know the details of the prosecutor's case until sometimes an hour or two before you're going to start to pick a jury, sometimes less.
It's certainly nothing like what America's been watching in the case of O.J. Simpson, a brilliant defense team dueling with the prosecution for days on end.
Legal scholars and those who are part of America's criminal justice system may disagree about just how well it works, but it's obvious that any resemblance between the O.J. Simpson hearing and everyday life in criminal courtrooms is purely coincidental.
What we're seeing broadcast around the world in Los Angeles is state-of-the-art.
Stephen Gillers of New York University's Law School.
It's what the system can do if every rule is followed and every right is asserted. But that's rare.
Rare indeed. Most often it's an endless procession of mostly destitute defendants who usually plead guilty and never get to trial.
They don't receive the same quality of justice that an O.J. Simpson gets.
Meaning?
They're treated very differently. Our clients are poor minorities.
Simpson's defense is likely to cost him several $1 million, and money like that can make a difference, as it apparently did in the recent double murder trial of the Menendez brothers. The result, a hung jury and a mistrial. And where would they be today without a high-priced defense?
The 2 Menendez brothers would almost certainly be on death row, or if not that, in prison for life.
I am interested in knowing who your client is.
New York criminal court judge Leslie Crocker Snyder.
There is no question that when you could buy all of your experts, and many trials come down to a battle of the experts, especially if there is a lot of scientific or psychiatric testimony, it's helpful to be rich. We do our best to equalize that.
But the courts have their own problems, a shortage of time and space and personnel. Watergate Committee counsel Sam Dash wrote a major study on justice reform.
Our criminal courtrooms are crowded courtrooms. Thousands of people are being processed through it, almost like cattle.
Dash blames it on the politicians, who he says pass get tough on crime laws but won't spend tax money on the resources to administer them.
They lie to the public. It's rhetoric. They tell them that if we have 3 strikes and you're out, if we put more cops on the beat, if we put more mandatory minimums, you'll be safe in the street. They know that's not true, and it isn't true.
So while you're watching the O.J. Simpson story played out on TV, a word of warning.
The real story, I feel, is in the courtrooms every single day when the cameras are not there. And you see how people are pushed through the system.
Tomorrow, Louise Hochberg will be back in court working for her 42 other defendants whose lives and liberties she is sworn to try to preserve. In New York, Richard Threlkeld for Eye on America.
And that's the CBS Evening News. CBS News will bring live coverage of O.J. Simpson's arraignment tomorrow beginning at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, I'm Deborah Norville. Thank you for joining us. And for all of us here, good night.
Experience CBS News.
This is CBS.